Lecture 7 Translation Theories. According to Newmark, translation theory is concerned mainly with determining appropriate translation methods for the widest possible range of texts or text categories. It also provides a framework of principles, restricted rules, and hints for translating texts and criticizing translations, a background for problem solving. Any theory should also be concerned with translation strategies adopted to address difficulties and problems in certain complicated texts. Likewise, Graham asserts that any substantial theory of translation assumes some formal inquiry concerning the general principles of accomplishment, the very principles which define an object and specify a method of study. A rigorous theory of translation would also include something like a practical evaluation procedure with specific criteria. A good survey of the theories of translation is perhaps best furnished by Nida, 1976, who avers that due to the fact that translation is an activity involving language, there is a sense in which any and all theories of translation are linguistic. So, he classifies these theories into three: philological theories, linguistic theories, and sociolinguistic theories, the sequel of three diverse perspectives and different approaches to principles and procedures of translation. So, if the emphasis is on the literary texts, the underlying theories of translation are best deemed philological. If it is on structural differences between source language and target language, the theories may be considered linguistic. And finally, if it is on a part of communication process or processes, the theories are best described as sociolinguistic. However, a more comprehensive survey subsumes far more than Nida's three sets of theories as elaborated below. So, philological theories. Philological theories rely upon philology as the study of the development of language and the classical literary studies. They are mainly concerned with the comparison of structures in the native and foreign languages, especially in the functional correspondence and the literary genres, in addition to stylistics and rhetoric. So Nida explicates, the philological theories of translation are, of course, based on a philological approach to literary analysis. They simply go one step further. In place of treating the form in which the text was first composed, they deal with corresponding structures in the source and receptor languages and attempt to evaluate their equivalencies. So philological theories of translation are normally concerned with all kinds of stylistic features and rhetorical devices. Philosophical theories. The most prominent of these theories is George Steiner's. Now, George Steiner theory claims that this book, After Babel, 1975, is the first systematic investigation of the theory and practice of translation since the 18th century. He primarily emphasizes the psychological and intellectual functioning of the mind of the translator. He elucidates that meaning and understanding underlie the translation process, averring that a theory of translation is essentially a theory of semantic transfer from the source language into the target language. He defines his approach as the investigation of what it means to understand a piece of oral speech or written text, and the attempt to diagnose the process in terms of a general model of meaning. He introduces his model in what he calls and describes the process of literary translation. He looks upon the act of translation in the context of human communication across barriers of language, culture, time, and personality. Thus, subdividing this motion into 4 stages or moves. The first move is termed trust or faith, which consists of the translator's assumption that the source text contains a sense to be extracted and retrieved into and via his own language. Although this is generally an unconscious action. The second move is referred to as the aggression or penetration, in which the translator invades or extracts and brings home the meaning of the original. The third move is termed incorporation or embodiment or appropriative use. Translation can introduce new elements in the target linguistic and cultural system. The fourth and final stage or move is labeled compensation or fidelity. The translator must work to restore in his language what he has failed to recover from the original text. Linguistic theories. Linguistic theories of translation, according to Nida, are based on a comparison of the linguistic structures of the source texts and the target texts, rather than a comparison of literary genres and stylistic features of the philological theories. Their development is due to 2 factors. First, the application of the rapidly expanding linguistics, the scientific study of language, to several fields such as cognitive anthropology, semiotics, pragmatics, and teaching translation or interpreting skills. And second, the emergence of machine translation, which has provided a significant motivation for basing translation procedures on linguistic analysis as well as for a rigorous description of source language and target language. These theories are perhaps best represented by proponent figures such as Eugene Nida, Roger Bell, and J.C. Catford, who especially Catford, who opens his well-known book, A Linguistic Theory of Translation, with the following words. Clearly, then, any theory of translation must draw upon a theory of language, a general linguistic theory. So he opens his book with this remark. Clearly, then, any theory of translation must draw upon a theory of language, a general linguistic theory. This book has been translated into Arabic by As-Safi in 1983. Accordingly, linguistic translation or linguistic approach is a product of these theories, which view translation as simply a question of replacing the linguistic units of the source text with the equivalent target language units without reference to factors such as context or connotation. Catford defines translation as a mere replacement of textual material in source language by equivalent textual material in the target language. Explicitly, equivalence, which is elaborated in in the previous lectures has been dealt with varying degrees of enthusiasm. According to Nida and Taber, it is only a linguistic translation that can be considered faithful because, as they say, it is one which only contains elements which can be directly derived from the source text, wording, avoiding any kind of explanatory interpolation or cultural adjustment which can be justified on this basis. He also suggests a three-stage model of translation, or of the translation process. In this model, the source text, surface elements, grammar, meaning, connotations, are analyzed as linguistic kernel structures that can be transferred to the target language and restructured to form target language surface elements. His linguistic approach basically bears similarity with Chomsky's theory of syntax and transformational generative grammar. Pertinent to linguistic theories is Newmark's binary classification of translation into semantic and communicative, which somehow resembles Nida's formal and dynamic equivalents. Communicative translation, according to Newmark, attempts to produce on its readers an effect as close as possible to that obtained on the original. Semantic translation attempts to render as closely as the semantic and syntactic structures of the second language allow the exact contextual meaning of the original. These two approaches can be best illustrated in the following remark. The contribution of linguistic translation is twofold: to apply the findings of linguistics to the practice of translation and to have a linguistic theory of translation as opposed to other theories such as the literary theory of translation. There are, however, differences among linguistic theories, the principle of which Nida maintains as he says, lies in the extent to which the focus is on surface structures or corresponding deep structures. Therefore, theories based on surface structures comparisons involve the use of elaborate sets of rules for matching corresponding structures, whereas those based on deep structures involve transformational analyses employed in teaching the methods of translation. Thank you very much, dear students. So, inshallah, I will upload the next lecture next Tuesday. So till then, take care and be safe. Thank you very much.